good to see you here, and definitely last time. Really, first of all, maybe 4 weeks ago, finally we have it here. And this time we have Dr. Anran Li to introduce her work related to the medical lateral model. And seems like technically we have some new members here, so we don't need to introduce ourselves.
Hi, everyone. I'm the Yale postdoc here. Well, decided to work on what we could do and forward the issues.
Yeah, thank you. Any other?
And I'm Qingyu Chen from Hong Kong, and will be the new postdoc with Dr. Chen.
Okay. Okay. Okay, then maybe we can start. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Maybe we can leave that okay.
Yeah, because it's blog that very time.
Yeah. Perfect.
Hello, everyone. I'm Anran, and it's my great pleasure to present one of our ongoing work. The topic is exploring memorization in medical large language models. And first of all, since it's my first time giving such a report, so I'm much glad to briefly introduce my previous research interests. And my previous research interests are data quality assessments and federated learning, which can be traced back to the data sharing and the data trading. So there are four roles of participants in the data trading process: the provider, the consumer, the platform, and the regulators. The provider provides the data, intelligent model and the computing resources, and the consumer can propose his requirements about specific data or intelligent models. And the platform serves as a role to search for the high quality data for the data consumer. And there are many modules in this platform, which includes data understanding, data quality assessment, data privacy preserving, intelligent service, and data privacy. Data understanding is tries to analyze specific usage of data in the downstream tasks, and the data quality assessment aims to select high quality data and filter out those erroneous ones. Because on the one hand, high quality data can provide adequate and accurate information for the specific tasks. And on the other hand, low quality data can cause serious consequences. For example, in the medical domain, the inaccurate medical data would cause the serious accidents. So the data quality assessment module is used to select those high quality data and filter out those erroneous ones. And the data privacy preserving module aims to preserve sensitive data from being leaked. So some techniques such as differential privacy can be used. And based on the data quality assessments, data pricing mechanisms aims to select a proper price for each dataset, which takes both data quality and market demands into considerations. And another module is traceability. It is designed to trace the data flow in the whole process. And some techniques such as fingerprints or blockchain can be used in this module. And here is my previous research roadmap. Given multimodal data such as image, tabular, graph, or text, we aim to design the efficient and private data quality assessment. there are two settings. The first setting is that the quality evaluator has the direct access to the original data. And in this setting, we propose a task-oriented data quality assessment. In this framework, we consider both the intrinsic quality assessment and the contextual quality assessment. And we propose many efficient methods to evaluate those larger scale data. For example, we propose methods based on locality sensitive hashing and convolutional neural networks. Another setting is that the quality evaluator has no access to the original data. For example, in the federated learning, local clients have their local data, and they are reluctant to upload their data to the remote server for the consideration of privacy protection. And based on these quality results, we can conduct some data quality improvements. For example, we can perform noisy data detection and filter out those erroneous ones. Besides, we can perform data selection to select those high importance and high quality data and filter out those erroneous ones. And besides that, we can perform some data cleaning and data augmentation to improve the data quality. So here is my previous research roadmap. Based on the proposed research roadmap, we have conducted many research work. Here is a summary of our previous research work, which can be divided into 4 topics. The first one is the data quality assessment. In this category, we focus on the erroneous data detection and the task-oriented quality assessment. For example, we propose the hierarchical influence analysis to identify erroneous samples and to identify clients that have erroneous ones. And for the task-oriented quality assessment, we consider both the intrinsic quality assessment and the contextual quality assessment. Another category is about the sample and the feature selection. In this category, we focus on the important data selection and important feature selection. For example, we propose hard sample aware and nose robust federated learning through the bi-level optimization. Besides, we propose the stochastic dual-get-based feature selection to select those highly relevant and highly important features to participate in the training. The objective of this selection is to accelerate the model training and improve the accuracy of the trained model. The third category is the client selection and the contribution evaluation. We propose the heterogeneity aware and the importance-based client selection. And also we propose the efficient contribution evaluation based on Shapley value. And by doing this, we can achieve the accurate federated learning and the fair profit allocation. The last topic is the federated graph learning. We propose the sample selection for the efficient larger scale federated graph learning. By doing so, we can achieve the efficient graph learning for those distributed and larger scale graph data. Next, I will introduce some background of my current topic. We all know that medical large language models have shown their capabilities in various tasks. Several medical large language models have been publicly released, such as PMC-Llama and Meditron. And in this background, we focus on one problem, that is the definition of these models when they conduct the inference. Here is one simple definition of memorization. It illustrated as this: a string a training string S is memorized if there exists a prompt P such that the model generates FP when given P as the input, and the S appears both in the training dataset and the generated output. That is to say, the output of the model contains the verbatim tokens as the original training data. Here is one example of verbatim memorization. Here we illustrate two motivations of this problem. The first one is the potential privacy risks. Since some medical LLMs are trained and fine-tuned on those private or copyright patient data, and the medical models can generate the repetition of training data during the inference phase. So here is an example of data memorization of GPT-2. Given some prefix and let the model to generate the next tokens, then the GPT model outputs may contain some private identifiable information of specific individuals, such as the individual person's names, email address, phone numbers, and fax numbers. So it will cause the privacy leakage of users, which is very dangerous. And in our medical domains, if the model output the generations that may contain the protected health information of specific patients. So next motivation of this problem is about the model generalization. The higher the generalization performance of the model and the more useful information it can capture. So in some cases where the model is trained on some public data, studying on the memorization can give us some guidance of the model generalization. Since the model is trained to capture meaningful patterns and relationships, not only simply memorizing the training data. Here is an example of exploring the relationship between the model performance and memorization and overfitting. Here, the x-axis denotes the validation perplexity. The perplexity score is used to evaluate the performance of the model, and the y-axis denotes the membership inference attack recall, which is used to quantify the memorization. So as we can see from this figure, as the iteration proceeds, the perplexity score of the model decreases, and thus the model's performance increases. And in the later iterations, the perplexity of the model decreases slightly, but the memorization ratio increases rapidly and finally overfits. So if we stop model training at this iteration, the model will get a high performance and a low memorization. So this is what we expected. And we aim to achieve a balance between the model performance and the model memorization. Here I illustrated 4 objectives in this project. The first is about the quantification. How much training data is memorized based on various memorization definitions? What types of memorization? The second is about characteristic. So during what stage training data is memorized, and what factors affect the memorization capabilities, such as model size or duplicated data. The third is about the impacts on some use cases, on some case studies. So can we identify copyright data because of memorization? And does memorization impact generalization or impact the overfitting? And finally, we'd like to give some recommendations how to elevate the memorization issue in the model development and the publish process. Next, I will introduce some existing work. Existing memorization work can be divided into two categories, which include verbatim memorization and semantic memorization. As we illustrated in the previous slides, the verbatim memorization means that the output of the model generates the repetition of training samples, or it contains verbatim words with the training data. So here is one example. And in some cases, although the outputs did not contain the reduplication of words, but it has the high semantic similarity with the original training data. And here is also an example of semantic memorization. Semantic memorization means the model captures semantic similarity instead of the reduplication of words. Next, I will introduce some representative works. The first one is the extracting training data from large language models. This work was published in Usenix 2021, and this work was done by Google and OpenAI. The memorization extraction of this framework consists of two modules. The first is the evaluation dataset construction, and the second is the memorization evaluation. In the evaluation dataset construction, the authors firstly generate samples from GPT-2 models with some strategies such as top N or temperature. The temperature sampling method can increase the diversity of the generated datasets. And then they sort those generations according to some metrics such as perplexity. Perplexity measures a model's ability to predict the next word in a sequence. And after sorting those generations, they perform the memorization evaluation. Since GPT-2 has not released its training data, so they need to manually inspect top 100 generations for each metric by searching online. If the generations have the verbatim tokens with the online texts, then they are identified as the memorized instances. And it is the first work about memorization of general LLMs. The second one is scalable extraction of training data from language models. This work was done by Google DeepMind. They firstly illustrate that an adversary can extract gigabytes of training data from open source LLMs, semi-open models like Llama, and closed models like ChatGPT. They evaluate whether the outputs have verbatim 50 tokens with original training data. And also they illustrate that models emit more memorized training data as they get larger. Here are some results of memorization ratios of open source LLMs. For each model, they generate 1 billion tokens and report 3 results. The first result is the ratio of tokens memorized. They report that the memorization ratios range from 0.2% to 1.4%. And then they show the number of unique memorized 50 token sequences. The reason is that the outputs may contain a lot of duplicate content, so they report the unique 50 grams. And then they also show the extrapolated 50 grams, which are the lower bound of unique memorized 50 token sequences. The motivation of reporting this value is that if we want to evaluate the memorization ratio of training datasets, we need to evaluate each instance of the training datasets, but its costs are much expensive. So to achieve efficient evaluation, they randomly select a subset of instances from the training datasets and calculate the memorization ratios on those small-sized datasets. And then they take this memorization ratio to approximate the real memorization ratios so as to reduce the memorization detection costs. So here is an example to show the relationship between extracted 50 grams and its unique 50 grams. And they also show that when the number of queries increases, the model emits more unique memorized contents. And this rate of extraction differs between models and can also change. And another work is quantify memorization across narrow language models. This work was done by Google Research. Different from the first two existing works, this work explored the three factors that may influence memorization capabilities. The memorization evaluation consists of two steps. The first step is the sample generation. They randomly select 10,000 examples from the training set. And another type of dataset construction is they select 1,000 sequences data content in the training set with n times. And after obtaining these two types of datasets, they perform the memorization evaluation. Here, they use the specific evaluation metric. That is, the output text has 50 consecutive tokens as the original text. Here are some results of their memorization detection. In these fingers, in the finger A, the x-axis denotes the model size, and in the finger B, the x-axis denotes the number of repetitions in training data. And in finger C, the x-axis denotes the prompt length, and the y-axis denotes the fraction of memorization. And from these fingers, we can see that there are three factors influence memorization capabilities. The first is the model size. Big models memorize more data when the model performs the inference. And from the second finger, we see that repeated strings are memorized more. And also in the third finger, we can see that longer context discovers more memorization. So these three factors can also influence the memorization capabilities in our medical LLMs. And another work is exploring memorization in fine-tuned language models. While prior works have studied memorization during pre-training, the exploration of memorization during fine-tuning is rather limited. So compared to pre-training process, the fine-tuning typically involves more sensitive data and diverse training objectives. So it might bring distinct privacy risks and unique memorization behaviors. And in this paper, the authors consider three types of memorization, which include verbatim memorization, paraphrase memorization, and idea memorization. Here, DI and DG are substrings of ground truth texts and model outputs. The verbatim memorization denotes that DJ is an exact replica of DI, and the paraphrase memorization denotes that DJ is a rephrased version of DI. Here is one example of difference between these three memorization types. For the paraphrase memorization, text A is "My name is Jack," and text B is "Jack is my name." So it is a paraphrase memorization type. And the third type is the audio memorization, which means DJ condenses the I into fewer sentences. And here is one example. And also, here is an example of the memorization cases. From this table, we can see that duplicated texts are highlighted with yellow marks, and personally identifiable information and other words that may lead to privacy concern in generated texts are marked as red. So we can say that there are much repetition of the outputs and the original training data, and also the memorized contents can contain the PII of specific users. So based on these three types of memorization, they propose the memorization evaluation. The main idea of the evaluation is as follows. Firstly, they input some prefixes to the input and utilize a search engine to locate those suspicious texts. And then they use a plagiarism detection tool to serve as the discriminative function. If the value of the discriminative function's value is larger than a threshold, then this instance is identified as a memorized sample. And here is some results of the memorization ratio of open source LLMs fine-tuned on various tasks, which include summarization, medical dialogue, extractive QA, and translation. And the authors found that there are much disparate memorization across different tasks. Some high memorization tasks include summarization and dialogue, and some low memorization tasks include classification, reading comprehension, and translation. So to further explore the reasons behind the discrepancy of memorization ratios across these different tasks, they link the memorization to task information needs through attention patterns. They illustrate that tasks that require understanding every detail of the inputs memorize the more data content. For example, in the segment analysis, a few words are enough to make predictions. So the model only learns key features and is unlikely to memorize other data. So this work explores the memorization detection on the fine-tuned tasks, and also they explore the reasons about the discrepancy of memorization across those diverse tasks. And next, I would like to introduce some of our previous results. I briefly introduced the process of verbatim memorization detection. There are 3 steps in this process. For the first step, we select instances from the training dataset, and here we randomly select 10,000 instances from each training dataset, and for each instance, we split it into 2 parts, and we let the first part, for example, the top arrow tokens, be the inputs, and we let the second part be the ground truth. And then we perform the model inference. We let the model output the next 500 tokens with the prompt, generate the next 500 tokens for the following text. And then we perform the memorization evaluation. Specifically, we evaluate whether there are consecutive n tokens in model outputs that are exactly the same as the ground truth text. And here, the value of n is empirically set to be large enough so that no two suffixes overlap accidentally. And in our setting, we set n to be 30 tokens and 50 tokens empirically. And here are the models and the datasets we have used in the evaluation. We adopt PMC Llama and Meritron with various model size. And these two models are built on Llama 2, and they are pre-trained and fine-tuned by using those high-quality medical corpus. And also we consider both pre-training datasets and fine-tuning datasets, which include clinical guidelines, experience replay, and PubMed abstract and PubMed full text. And also we consider some question and answer datasets for those fine-tuned models. Here is one example of the memorized case. It is an example of memorization on the pre-trained Meritron model, which is trained on the clinical guideline dataset. We can see that the prompt is we let the model to continue the following text from where it left off. And here is the input, and here is the ground truth, and it is the response from the Meritron. So we can say that there are much repetition of the outputs. And here are some results of evaluations on pre-trained Meritron models. We conduct verbatim memorization on two datasets, clinical guidelines and PubMed abstracts. These two datasets are used to pre-train the Meritron. We considered from this, we can say that the x-axis in this finger it denotes the input length, and the y-axis denotes the ratio of memorization. And we can see that medical LLMs produce much memorization. It is up to 23.25%. And we consider different input lengths and different model size. We take Llama and Llama 2 models as our baseline models. Llama model is not pre-trained or fine-tuned on those medical corpus. And these two fingers show that the two factors that is model size and the two factors that are model size and the input length affect the memorization capabilities. We can say that big models memorize the more data contents, and the longer context discovers more memorization. Also, in some cases, as the input length increases, the memorization ratio decreases. It is because some of the memorized content are content in the input, so it will be excluded from the output. Yeah. Yeah. So you mean the PMC Llama 7B model generates much lower memorization ratio? Yeah, okay. Because what the training dataset we used is to train the Manitron model, not to train the PMC Llama. So this PMC Llama use the trained dataset called PMC article, so they don't use the clinical guidelines. But yeah, as you said, I should. Repeat again.
This figure based on the memorization ratio on
I think so, then. That is a clinical guideline, right? It's,
Yeah,
but are those models trained using clinical guidelines?
no, only the Manitron model, Manitron 7B and the
Yeah, I
Manitron
thought I-
70
So even
billion.
they are not trained on clinical guidelines, but you still have to see the fraction of memorization.
Yeah, we want to take the PMC Llama as one baseline. We want to illustrate that the PMC Llama is not trained on the clinical guideline, so it has the much lower memorization ratio compared to Manitron model, which trained on the clinical guideline. Yeah, but I have not shown in this slides. Yeah, we have not finished that experiment.
So if the clinical guidelines were not used to train PNC Llama, then why you also see the memorization? Does that mean
Yeah,
the guidelines somehow also in the
yeah,
PNC paper?
yeah, maybe they see this similar text in other places and memorize some similar contents. Yeah, and you can see the Llama 1 7 billion model also did not train on this dataset, but it also has memorization ratios.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That sounds to me like it's just like you say a bunch of random words and at some point some of them make sense.
Yeah. And also in some medical LM papers, such as Meditron and PMC, they also compare the accuracy of the Meditron and the Llama 2. And the Llama 2 show its capability in the in achieving the specific task, such as Q&A task. Here are some results of PubMed full text datasets. And also we can obtain similar observations as the last slide. And this figure shows the memorization ratios of tokens at different positions of model outputs. We illustrate that tokens closer to the beginning of the text are easier to memorize. And in this figure, x-axis denotes the input length, and the y-axis denotes the fraction of memorization. Different color of bar denotes the different positions of the tokens. So we can see that those tokens that are closer to the beginning of the text are easier to memorize. And further, we explore the specific categories of memorized contents. Specifically, we use 418 instances from the clinical guideline datasets, which are memorized by pre-trained Meditron 7 billion. Here is the category of the memorization contents. And here is the statistic analysis. So we can see that the Wikidoc disclaimer and the medication instructions are the most frequent categories that are memorized. So some reasons of their higher memorized ratios are as follows. Firstly, this information usually appears at the beginning of a clinical guideline fair, so it is easy to be seen and memorized. The second reason is that there exist many duplicates of such information. For example, developers can declare the same disclaimers in many files, so they are memorized more. And also we can illustrate that repeated data contents are memorized more. So here are the preliminary results of this project. And next I will conclude. The first one is that medical large language models produce much memorization. It is up to 23.25%, which can pose data leakage risks. And the second is that 3 factors influence model memorization during the inference process, including model size, context length, and sequence repetition. And the last one is that different fine-tuning tasks exhibit discrepancy memorization. So it highlights the variant cognitive demands those tasks need from LLMs. And so that's all about this presentation. Thanks for listening.
Actually, I have a quick question for since you use the medical is trained with is fine-tuned with the medical data.
Yeah.
So and you test the memorization on the medical data.
Mm-hmm.
So the memorization capability may not come from the memorization because they already memorized, already learned the data in the parameters. So the memorization capabilities, I'm not sure that evaluation is very is accurate because if you train with the medical data and you test on the medical data, so it definitely will increase the memorization. But if you train with the medical data, if you test on some other language model or other domains, so the memorization capabilities will still improve. So since you have the memorization capability, right? So the memorization capability should be like if we don't know something and so we have a contest and two people have to memorize the same thing at the same speed. So they must have no idea about the test data, right?
Yeah, I agree. I think maybe it's better if you evaluate on data that was not actually specific for that medical model. So if you use data that was like generic for training memorization, for testing memorization on both models, would be more accurate scenario. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There was even a question before, it's probably higher
Louder.
So I about a single question we've done before and have a discussion with you. We don't need to test. The model is actually supposed to memorize some of information from the standard text because the standard laws. So it's reasonable that they memorize some information based on the standard laws. So
I think the hypothesis is not they're not going to memorize. It's just trying to quantify how much they memorize, right? That's the whole purpose of the study, is try to quantify.
Yeah. Quantify the.
So
How
I'm
do
not
they do
sure
it?
whether that the high memorization rate is better or just worse for the models performance. Actually, in some cases, the high memorization rate may be just indicate the model is better. So memorizing the training data is better.
I don't think you should measure the performance per se. You should measure the risk of leaking the training data. Yeah, that's the whole purpose, right? So
Yeah.
not about.
Yeah,
But if we're using data that it was specifically from the training of that model, doesn't it, it's likely to memorize more than the other ones that never seen that kind of data? I think that's the part that is.
Yeah, that for that part, I mean, the clinical guideline part is like why we're saying if they're not trained to use that data, then
yeah,
first of all, why it actually shows.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think
Second is maybe not the fair comparison, but the PubMed data should be a fair comparison.
Mhm.
You're not all memorization is the same, right? Because if you look at the top of that ranking in terms of like what got memorized, like the Wikidoc disclaimer, that probably just got memorized because it's in like every article. So like, if it's gonna get memorized, if it got repeated individually. It's like, you know, what you're really concerned about is like, say, leaking patient can tell you, it's basically going to appear like once.
Yeah.
Training data, so like, obviously that's the one you would pay for, or that's the one you would want to, you know, guard against. So like, if it's just memorizing the Wikidoc disclaimer because it's at the top of every article, like who cares about that?
Yeah, in clinical guideline datasets, this dataset contains much Wikidoc disclaimer statements, and we manually check the memorized contents. And also in other datasets such as PubMed abstract or PubMed full text, we need to fully manually check the contents that they memorized. So we expect there are much clinical corpus that have been memorized.
I have a question following with sentence question. So as I naively understand, like if the model memorizes so many sequences verbatim as long as 50 or even longer tokens, that means some model weights are wasted on memorizing those verbatim tokens or sequences. Does that imply the performance is actually should be worse, but the Qingyu said higher memorization implies higher performance? I think the opposite.
So it is one finger. In this finger shows the relationship between the model performance and memorization ratios. So we can see that the x-axis as the iteration process, the perplexity decreases. That means goes to the left, and the performance increases. And when in the later training stage, the perplexity decreases slightly. So the model performance increases slightly, but the memorization increases rapidly, and finally overfitting. So this finger tries to capture the relationship between the performance and the memorization ratios.
Can you explain this a little bit?
The x-axis denotes the perplexity score. The perplexity score is used to evaluate the model's ability to make specific predictions on these sequences. And so the x-axis denotes different epochs of model fine-tuning. Yeah, they consider the fine-tuning. And as the iteration proceeds, the perplexity decreases and the model performance increases. And in the later training stage, the model performance remains increases slightly, but the memorization ratio increases rapidly. So, and finally overfitting. Yeah, this is about this finger.
Yeah, where's the y-axis?
Y-axis, membership influence of attack recall, and it is used to quantify one type of memorization.
This is someone who was pre-training a large language model.
This is for fine-tuning.
If someone was fine-tuning a large language model and actually and saw what the validation complexity was, how different numbers of response to the methods.
Response to gold standard. Self-supervised in train. The model can be generated in sequence. So the factor is actually input the input text.
Yeah.
The response.
Yes.
Normalization has an inherent institution rather than
Yeah. So some papers illustrate that the reason for the memorization can be due to the overtraining of models. Yeah, so if they stop in this iteration, they may get a balance between the model performance and the memorization. But in some cases, they will overtrain the models.
You actually assess both the fine-tune memorization, right? You have an experiment actually check the
yes,
supervisor fine-tune data, how that was memorized. See?
Yeah, we have.
Do you have the result here?
Yeah, I have results, so I can share. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I want to change it to another slide.
Yeah, so maybe we need to stop this one.
It's okay.
Stop there. Yeah, maybe just the.
Check. Just to answer Chen's question, right, about this memorizing the training data.
Yeah.
So my question is, what are the solutions if I don't really want to leak my training data? Now we have this chatbots, we're going to release online, people type the first sentence of my training data, my whole training data will just show up.
Yeah.
Then what's the solution?
So it is about the mitigation of memorization. So there are many methods, such as using differential privacy on model parameters before release it publicly, but it will compromise the performance of the model. And another work use the pre-process of training data. For example, we can remove those duplicated data before using it for training. And the other, another technique we can use is to, we can randomly mask some tokens of those texts before we put it into training. Yeah, so from two perspectives, we can mitigate the memorization. But also in these projects, I'm wondering if it is better to say memorization is a good thing or not thing. We don't want to claim this it is a good thing or bad thing. We just want to quantify the memorization ratios.
Yeah, I was literally just about to ask, are we necessarily sure that do we all agree that memorization is necessarily a bad thing?
Yeah.
Because, like, if we want the model to answer questions and the training data has the answer to the question, then necessarily we want the model to semantically or verbatim provide the training data. I suppose we can, like, the first thing really, I think, is maybe to like agree on a definition and like to operationalize the definition of memorization as maybe like a failure to learn representations of the training data. Like maybe it's a good thing, you know, say in some respects. I do think that the like spitting out protected health information is bad.
From my perspective, I think the instance that have low verbatim memorization but has high semantic memorization that are better. That means the model reduce the verbatim tokens as the original trained data, but it also captures the relationship between those data and has their own interpretation or understanding of specific tasks.
Remember last year in 2023 when people were going on ChatGPT and asking it to repeat some word over and over?
Yeah.
Like repeat this word over and over, like Alice, 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 and then ChatGPT repeats the word 20 times and then like spits out someone's private address, like completely unprompted. And OpenAI was like, oh, so even their reinforcement learning, like human feedback framework, was not like totally enough to alleviate this behavior. It was like there was very little understanding of what, like how you were, why this behavior was arising. But that would raise all sorts of questions. Like, because OpenAI trained on data that was copyrighted.
Yeah.
So
memorization can also be used to identify copyright data.
Yeah.
In some cases.
Which gets them in trouble.
Yeah, Jeff.
But you go back to the slide you had about like what percentage of like repeated tokens were unique. Like I'm just trying to think, because in your PMC experiment, if you were to like say look at how many of the memorized tokens were unique, like almost 50% of them were from the disclaimer, right? So if you're looking at like essentially the unique token, really closer to like, you know, 10-20%.
Yeah.
So like,
yeah, so we were also surprisingly to find that the memorization ratio in the medical LLM are much higher than those in general LLMs. Because in general LLMs, they demonstrate the memorization ratio ranges from 0.2% to 1.5%. But in our case, we can find up to 23.25%. And also we further explore the memorized contents. There are much repetition of those memorized contents. So we can further report the unique memorized memorized contents.
so when you say unique, is it like the same 50 tokens, or is it like if I have like say 1,000 tokens, say a wiki not disclaimer, and like say one passage has the first 50 and the next passage has like 25 to 75, are those counted as like unique tokens, or are they really like part of the same document? Right?
Can you say again?
So like say I have the wiki document.
Yeah.
Like I'll just use the elements. Right, now, when you're like counting unique, are you saying like, you know, how many times was the exact first 50 memorized? Like how many times was like 1 to 51 memorized?
Yeah, I guess I need to verify methods to measure that.
I'm just asking what the metrics are exact.
Yeah. That's what maybe we can do stuff like that, yeah. Yeah, all right, I guess maybe it's already on time.
Yeah.
Everything now. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.